November 5th is Election Day in New York City and elsewhere, and 87% of likely voters say Bill de Blasio will be the next man at the helm. A victory by Mr. de Blasio will usher in a significant change at City Hall, despite the fact that Democrats outnumber Republicans. Now, if Mr. de Blasio wins, he will be the first Democrat to win the race for mayor in nearly 25 years.
With Election Day less than a week away, Democrat Bill de Blasio maintains his overwhelming lead in the race for New York City mayor. De Blasio, the city's public advocate, leads Republican Joe Lhota 68% to 23% in a New York Times Siena College poll released on Monday. If de Blasio maintains that overwhelming edge, he could set a new record for victory by a non-incumbent and top the 40-point margin by Abe Beame in 1973. And a de Blasio victory on November 5th would make him the first Democrat to win a mayoral election in nearly 25 years. Despite the city's huge tilt towards Democrats in voter registration, the last Democrat elected mayor was David Dinkins in 1989. So what's behind de Blasio's wide margin over Lhota? The numbers show a different race. According to the New York Times Siena poll, de Blasio is supported by 3/4 of Manhattan and Bronx voters and 2/3 of Brooklyn and Queens voters. He leads Lhota 55% to 38% among white voters, and de Blasio is backed by 90% of black and 76% of Latino voters. Entering the final turn, both candidates did their best to gain the support of widespread New Yorkers. In a week that marked the one-year anniversary of Hurricane Sandy, both de Blasio and Lhota were at the boardwalk in Staten Island, where residents lit candles by the stretch of waterfront closest to their homes at 7:45 p.m. in a Light the Shore vigil. De Blasio attended the vigil along with his wife, Shirlane.
I think there's a lot of people still haven't gotten the benefits they deserve. I think there's a lot of people who are fighting with insurance companies for claims that should have been responded to a long time ago.
Both candidates disagree on most of the issues, from charter schools to the Affordable Care Act, and most importantly, New York City's highly divisive stop and frisk policies. The winner of the election will succeed three-term Republican turned independent Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
And here to talk about New York's race for mayor, we have Michael McCoy from Rutgers University, along with Didi Benke and, of course, Dr. Bart Rossi. Thank you so much for being here, Michael. Nice to see you. Dr. McCoy, I'm sorry.
I'll take both.
Okay. All right, this has been one crazy mayoral race. I just want to weigh in, get everybody's ideas. Didi, we'll start with you.
Well, you know, it started with Quinn, and nobody really liked her. I mean, there was never a front runner. And then Weiner comes up, and he's the front runner because he's kind of interesting, and people wanted to give him a shot. Then we know what happened with him. More and more came out, forget it. Then de Blasio, out of nowhere, ends up winning, and he barely won because there was almost a runoff. I mean, it was very close where there was going to be a runoff. So, and if that had happened, it could have very well, it was Thompson, right?
Yeah.
Thompson and de Blasio. So it was very close, and then that could have been a very different result. But guess what? De Blasio hung on, and here he is out of nowhere. Amazing.
Dr. McCoy.
Yeah, I mean, this was a race that was started off about just nonsense. The whole Weiner scandal was just ridiculous and a waste of our time. But then it actually turned into a race about something. I mean, I think de Blasio's win was a really important statement about how New Yorkers feel about what has been, by any definition, a great time for the city, but about this feelings of social alienation, social disconnection. And de Blasio really tapped into that with this, you know, his ad with his son, Dante, about his own real almost empathy about the loss that some racial minorities feel in New York, and really tapped into that.
There's no doubt that he used stop and frisk as the cornerstone of his campaign. Now, let's talk about that. Was it good politics, one, to do so? Well, obviously, looks like he's going to win, so that might be the answer. But was it right to involve his son also? He's had some criticism for that. Dr. Bart, we'll go to you on that one.
Well, I think it was right because he's winning by such a margin, and I think it also helped project him. You know, I always talk about what is a winning personality, and I think he really does have an outstanding personality. He's very comfortable in his own skin. He's very consistent. He never discards anybody. So I think by bringing in his family and presenting himself in a very strong, positive way, voters relate to that. And he's also a good listener. He has all the traits of somebody who has a winning personality. So Didi said he came from nowhere. True. But he came from nowhere with a winning personality.
Well, Dr. McCoy, I want to ask you a question, and Didi, I want to pose the same question to the both of you. Obviously, we talked about the stop and frisk, the cornerstone of his campaign, but is that going to complicate his relationship with the NYPD? Mayor Giuliani, former Mayor Giuliani, has come out very strong and criticized him and said, you better apologize, because you're going to have to work with them.
I think absolutely. I think it's a terrible policy. I think he's good at politicking, has this in common with Obama, but his policies are terrible. And, you know, this may be the first time in a very long time that a Democrat's mayor, and it may be the last, because I really fear what he's going to do. Because, you know, look, Mayor Giuliani was fantastic, and Bloomberg's done a good job too when it comes to law and order, which I think for mayor is the #1 issue. I don't know, Deblasio's scary. I'm worried about it.
You know, I think, I mean, to answer your question, will a complicated relationship, I think the answer is yes. Yeah, he'll obviously have not the easy relationship that Giuliani and even Bloomberg have with the police. And that could be a bad thing, but it actually could be a good thing, because even those who are supporters of the stop and frisk policy agree that the police were not always handling it correctly. And so if the police know that the mayor is someone who is not as tight an ally, who will not just have their back carte blanche, then they themselves might be a little more thoughtful about how they apply stop and frisk. Because again, even advocates of the policy say there were times, you know, was it going on? I remember one time, even on this show, Dee Dee, you even acknowledged, okay, there are some people who aren't handling it well.
They should be fired.
And so if you...
That's bad apples, it's not bad policy.
No, but if you have a mayor, you know, okay, this guy will fire me, because you don't know Giuliani's going to fire you.
Don't
but you know Deblasio, this is a tough guy who may not have your back. He may fire you, so it actually may be an improvement of the policy.
Well, let's see how tough he is.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see.
We'll have to see how tough he is. And I'm going to say, you know, he worked for, of course, the former mayor, Mayor Dinkins. And I would like to just use a quote from Mayor Ed Koch, who said, you know, Mayor Dinkins was a nice guy, but he was a lousy mayor.
Definitely.
And he always said that Mayor Giuliani was a great mayor, but a bad man. Now, he said that on more than one occasion, and he said it to me personally, so I am quoting Mayor Ed Koch. But, you know, certainly Mayor Giuliani can say that he came into office with 2,200 murders and left the office with 500 murders. 1.1 million people were on welfare when he took office. He left with 500,000 people on welfare. So he certainly did a lot of good things. Mayor Dinkins has been, let's say, criticized for a little bit more. Deblasio comes from the Dinkins era. Is that going to, does he bring enough to the office?
I think he's going to bring community policing and to this, you know, stop and frisk policy. I think he's going to change it. But I don't think he's going to go backwards. I disagree with Dee Dee. I don't think this is going to go backwards and the city's going to have major problems. I think that he's going to know on day one that he has to have a police force that's effective, not just be a guy for progressive causes.
But he's already fighting them.
Well, he's fighting them because he has problems with stop and frisk policy. And some of the procedures and some of the discrimination and some of the issues are there. So he is presenting himself in that manner, and he's winning.
No, I don't
he's
think
going to have to win over Ray
cops.
Kelly, though. I mean, and you think that's going to happen, Dr. McCoy?
I mean, I think we don't know how good a politician Bill de Blasio is once he's in office. Obviously, he's shown he's a great politician running for office, but running for office and being in office.
Do you think he got lucky, though? I mean, like.
No, you don't luck into something like this. We already talked about
the totally lucked into this.
The Dante ad was a smart ad.
And you don't think
he was there at the right time, and he understood what Quinn didn't understand was that while people know that Bloomberg is a good mayor and he's actually a great mayor, they're ready for something different. Quinn didn't recognize that. He did. He knew how to tap into it. But I think he also needs to be smart enough to recognize that while people might be a little tired of Bloomberg, they still think Bloomberg was an excellent mayor.
Agreed.
And he shouldn't break with it too much. And again, I think he'll have enough distance to bring more discipline to the police department. How far he will go, you know, time will tell. We really just can't tell.
I don't see luck when it comes to de Blasio's personality.
Oh, look, there's a lot of luck in politics.
There's a lot of luck in politics, but there's a lot of luck in politics, but he himself ran a very skillful, strong campaign. Because you said that he barely won. He didn't barely win. He barely avoided the runoff, but he beat Thompson by like 14 points. Quinn, who was supposed to be the front runner, was like in third.
Runoff can change everything. Let's just hope we don't have Dinkins #2. That's my concern.
Well, and I would like to bring up his wife's past and something that he has avoided. He's, you know, when they met in City Hall, she portrayed herself and said that I am a lesbian. And that has never really been talked about. And is he going to address that in the coming days, or is that going to be avoided?
Avoided.
If he hasn't talked about it now, why would he?
Yeah. Avoided.
Okay.
He's going to put Dante out there.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to put Dante out there.
Yeah, think about this. Like, his ads have been his son, then his daughter. His wife has been silent in his ads. Has appeared, but
well, it's
going to
be interesting if he does make it. What kind of a first lady and what kind of politics that she's going to bring to the.
Well, and after he wins, then that changes everything. He doesn't have to run. So, you know, unless he wants another term, maybe then she will take a bigger role.
And
now, you were talking about the perfect storm. I want to take it back to New Jersey right now. Barbara Bono is trailing. Chris Christie, of course. A lot of people say that right after Superstorm Sandy, that this sort of paved the way for Chris Christie to win a very easy re-election. Predictions, I don't think that this is too tough to talk about, too tough to predict, but I know.
Let me think about this really hard.
I think the question you need to ask is, will Christie break 60%?
Yeah,
yes
exactly.
Or no? I mean,
think
that's
so.
really what we're talking about. And I think he's got a shot. I mean, right now he's polling, I think, at 30% in the African-American community in New Jersey. I mean, he might actually get 30% of the vote. That's astounding. I mean, he's going to have a blowout win. Again, the question is, will it be 60 plus?
What do you think about her ads, though? And I think that her ads resonated with some people that I spoke to. Chris Christie wants to be your president. I want to be your governor. Effective? I mean, again, she's not. I think we all can collectively agree that she's probably not going to win. But is that?
Well, I say to that question, marginally effective, because what Christie does better than anyone right now is project a very tough-minded personality when we have tough times. He shined during Sandy. I think the president did as well. But I think he's shined because he projects a tough-minded, serious, dominant personality that people like to see when it comes to tragedy or problems. And he does that very well.
I think the ad about he wants to be your president, I want to be your governor, I kind of find that ad a little sad. I mean, to me, it's you really have nothing to criticize her for. I actually liked her very first ad on, you know, like my name is Buono, and actually talking about what she did. I thought that was good. The ad about Christie, I mean, it's like, your biggest criticism is he's ambitious?
And your point is, really?
Yeah, seriously.
You know,
it's like, and you think the
no.
people in New Jersey are going to be upset that their governor might
be
president?
Yeah, see, I think it works against her.
I think it's a sad ad.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, if I'm from New Jersey and I'm thinking, wow, our governor could be president and we get to go to the White House, I'm in.
Yeah,
I think that helps him.
I do want to talk about, though, because this is, of course, the one-year anniversary. We're talking politics, and Sandy did change the political landscape.
It did.
Let's talk a little bit about Cory Booker and just his big win this week. It was certainly something that it just changed. It altered I guess, what happened here in New Jersey.
I think no surprise, Cory Booker is one of the most talented politicians you will find. On social media, he's constantly tweeting out, "Hey, I'm at this. I'm filling a pothole. I'm rescuing a kid from a fire. I'm digging garbage out."
He is enormously upbeat.
Yeah, it's amazing what that guy does. So I got to say, no surprise.
Yeah, no surprise. I actually feel like, though, this race showed his limitations as a politician. I mean, once again, this should have been a blowout election, and he stumbled a bit because he's so good on the social media that sometimes he takes his eyes a little bit off of the sort of the necessary grind of politics, of actually getting out there and making the connections locally. So it wasn't actually as big a win. He had some missteps there, but like you said, I mean, he's a person with limitless ambition, talent, energy. So he can go far, but I think he needs to show that he's more than his Twitter feed and he's more than his Facebook presence.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think that he's a star rising, and I think he has great personality features. He presents himself very well, and he also has some conservative ideas as part of the more progressive ideas that he has. So he's a mixed bag, and I think that goes well towards many of the voters.
And let me get just some final thoughts about what's going to happen on Election Day, and also just the final thought. We were talking about this, Dee Dee, before. Mitt Romney, we were talking about Sandy. Did he lose momentum because of the storm? Very quickly.
How about he got totally blown away? Not to use a pun, but to use a pun. Forget it. When Sandy came, he was out. Sandy came in, he was out. Obama's here looking presidential. We weren't talking about Benghazi, which was starting to take hold. When Sandy came, I knew for a fact it was over.
Dr. McCoy?
It didn't help. I mean, I think even without Sandy, Mitt Romney was going to lose that race, but it definitely was a very big win for the president.
Okay, final thoughts about what's going to happen on Tuesday. Dee Dee?
Well, Deblasio and Dante is going to be at the podium saying, "We're Mayor Deblasio."
I would say, you know, blowout.
Oh, Christie, forget it. Christie's in for
seriously,
sure.
blowout in New York, blowout in New Jersey, and then the Virginia governor's race probably going to be something close to a blowout there for.
So a little history in the making in several different states.
I think McAuliffe is going to win by more votes than a lot of people think.
All right, well, we'll see if it's that 60% here in New Jersey. Thank you very much, and don't go away, everyone. And just as we just talked about history in New York City, when we come back, we'll talk about Boston's historic day. The lightning round is next.